What's up, everybody? Sorry about a little bit of a late start. I had some audio issues. I had to restart my computer. Luckily, that fixed it, I believe. Hopefully. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. What's up, Eric? I'm not sure what you guys are talking about on the tune adjustments. Maybe on the billet lid. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me. Didn't really have a big plan for what we were going to do tonight, so we're going to go over, obviously, the billet supercharger results. The supercharger lid. Man, I'm going to kill this microphone here. I don't know why it won't stay adjusted. Hopefully that works. Can you guys hear me okay? Anyway. We're going to go over the billet supercharger lid results, and then the new topic we're going to talk about is NA power. Obviously, you know, superchargers are the most popular way to go real fast with Coyotes, but there's a lot more NA projects on the horizon, ones that we're working on, and the big one in-house is Austin, who works for us. He's got a really nice NA project coming together that, you know, we were hoping to go to the track last week, but it rained. I was hoping actually this episode might be to talk about his past, but that did not happen. So I do want to talk about the car a little bit and what's involved in it, you know, what led up to it, and also, you know, specifically the heads that are on it. That's probably the most unique thing, especially on a Coyote right now. So, and I think he's in here. What's up, Pedro? Lazaro, engage better than SET. We'll have a question and answer in a little bit, but it comes down to the software. HP Tuners is just a little bit better for us, especially on the newer stuff. We don't mind the SET stuff on the older stuff, but any of the newer stuff are really just pushing engage at this point. I mean, it's just, you know, you guys want us to deliver the best tune to you guys. Well, we're telling you that the best tool in that case is the HP Tuner software, which in that case we're using the Engage. The Engage, and that's not the only reason. The Engage is a great device. I like, you know, a lot of the features of it, and I like the guy who owns the company, actually. So that's important to me. What's up, late model throttle? There's Jeff. Jeff is the mastermind behind the billet lid, which was really, you know, awesome for me. I love the way that turned out, for sure. I'm really happy with that. So, but anyway, let's talk about the NA stuff. How many of you guys out there, you know, like watching NA racing? Because NA stuff for me, you know, that's my background. Even though obviously in the tuning game, most of the time, you know, we're dealing with power rider cars and power rider records and all that. My background is actually naturally aspirated. That's what got me into this hobby and then profession, is naturally aspirated stuff. I actually, you know, chased the 2-valve naturally aspirated record back. It was like 18 years ago, something like that. So, you know, that was my deal for a really long time. And then that led me to the NMRA and Heads Up Racing and racing Pure Street and helping other racers in Pure Street and all that. So NA is definitely my deal. Obviously, it's price-wise and effort-wise, you still get more out of a boosted car, but NA cars are badass. So, you know, I'm all for NA. And I'm glad to see a lot of guys pushing the NA envelope. You know, Kyle, who works for us now as one of our NA tuners, holds the record for the 680 NA. And Austin, who is in our sales and heading up our new customer service division, is, you know, he's hoping to get the A10 record. So we've got BMR with their project Dark Horse. They went really fast with their car. That car is going to be back out soon. And then we have Austin's car. So let's talk a little bit about his car. Kelly, yeah, we just talked about Dark Horse. Well, what's the fastest ET on Dark Horse again? I'm sorry, I forget about exactly what they run. Underfed Coyote 5.0. Did cams, ported Cobra Jet, stalled 5C, and can't get mid-11s in Las Vegas. What could go wrong? I mean, there's a lot of things I would need to know to answer that. First off, ET is never really a good measure when you're asking a question like that. It's more about trap speed. ET is going to be heavily affected by, your 60 foot is the most obvious thing. Shift points also can really affect your ET, but if it rolls out the back, the trap speed will be pretty close. So that'll tell us what kind of power you're making. So we need to know the trap speed. Rob, actually, you should hang out because I have a video of your car. I know we don't want to talk about your numbers, but I'm just going to play a video of your car, so I hope that's okay. Tony's GT, yes, my engine is still factory sealed. The GT500 engine, I'm getting a lot of questions on that, and everybody's like asking, what's it going to handle? And I don't really want to find the limit. I don't want to be able to answer that. But I'm sure hoping, Dark Horse went 10-1 at 137. So that car is right on the cusp of nines once we get a couple little other things figured out on that. And then we're hoping to do the same with Austin's, which I'm going to show you guys in just a sec. Underfed Coyote. I mean, Vegas is at a high DA, I believe, right? So I would need to know the specific density altitude when you ran those times, and also the weight of the car. And I don't know if we're tuning it or not, but that would be good to know. 5,000 feet DA. Sorry about that, guys. 1960 foot's definitely a problem to go quick. DA 5,000 is very tough. Javi on the NA deal, that's the question that is, probably the biggest question. NA or boost? NA or boost? Do I save for boost? I mean, ultimately, it just depends on what you want to do. Like Austin is a good example. He works for us. He's obviously around all these boosted cars. He went quick NA with it before he modified it full bolt-on. He asked me that question, should I do this or that, NA or boost? And I honestly can't answer why he decided to go NA. But I think it's just like the path least traveled, especially in the Coyote world, because it's a little bit more difficult to go really fast because of the small displacement. Now, of course, we've got lots of fast NA cars, Coyote stock cars and all that. And the Coyote stock car is a good example. You got guys going half a second or even more quicker than other cars with the same exact power to weight ratios. There's a lot that goes into, especially a stick shift car, into getting them to ET correctly. So there's so much left in the setup on most cars. Not so much in a Coyote stock car. That's what at least not the fastest ones. Anyway, what are you sending to me, Mark? Mark says sending it soon. I thought you meant sending it to me. Yeah, Mark Scafidi. I hope I'm saying that right. He's one of our 2020 GT500 guys. He's doing some new upgrades right now, and he's planning on going real fast. Yeah, I mean, Lund Tune, not that I don't want to help you, but this is a conversation that you should have with your tuner. Because the most important thing to look at is your logs, but I don't really look at other tuners' logs. So, I can't really help you there. All right. Anyway, let's look at Austin's car real quick. First off, let's take a look at just a picture of it. Here it is right here. Now, Austin's car, let me start by saying that, we're going all out with this as far as effort, but it's not the trickiest thing in the book yet. but the heads are for sure. So we're going to talk about the heads in a little bit. This is a Cobra Jet intake, but it's done by Austin. So one thing to keep in mind on this car, and which is, it's not, you know, it doesn't make you worse if you don't work on your own car. I don't even always work on my own car, often work on my own car. I'm doing some things to it right now. A lot of things RareFab does. And Austin doesn't do everything himself. I believe RareFab may have installed some of the fuel system parts, but Austin pulled the engine, pulled the heads off, sent those out, got them ported, got the cams, installed everything, timed the motor himself, and all that. You know, and I don't believe he's ever done that before. So that's a good thing. Austin's younger, and you know, that's a great way to learn. Obviously, it's a little bit dangerous if you're, you know, he has a lot of people to lean on around him, but I don't think anybody was there helping him from Palm Beach Dyno. He did it at home. So anyway, and you know, and he ported the intake himself. Did he do a good job? Maybe there's nothing left there. You know, that's an off-the-shelf PMAS, off-the-shelf headers. When I say off-the-shelf, like, you might wonder, well, like, what else is there? Well, you know, there's all kinds of little tricks you can do, like the headers. You know, I'm not even sure what headers are on there, but you can do all kinds of fancy stuff with stepped headers or tri-Y type stuff, and who knows? I mean, and the answer is like, what if you're going to ask me what works, I can't answer that. You know, NA guys have been chasing that for a long time, and you know, there's probably a difference of opinion there on different header setups, different ways to do the cold air intake. You know, PMAS designed this intake specifically, you know, probably for a stockish engine with stock cams. And, you know, is this the best setup for us? I don't know. We're going to test all that. But this car has done really, really, really well to begin with. So let's look at the dyno graph first. Well, let's look at a dyno pull. All right, that pull, we did that pull in 7th gear too, so that was pretty high speed. Here's the dyno. This is not the final dyno graph. First off, Austin doesn't want to show the final dyno graph. I don't really want to show the final dyno graph. We've made quite a bit of progress after this, but this gives you Simon. Sorry about that. This gives you Simon. Stop it. I need to get Simon over here. This gives you a good idea of the gains. This was a full bolt-on 18 manifold in the blue, and the red was after the heads. So now, and the cams. So let's go ahead and talk about the heads. The heads were done by Head Games, who maybe in the Mustang world you don't hear a lot about, but he is a badass. So let's talk about some of the stuff that he's done. I had all this stuff up ahead of time for you, but unfortunately, I had to restart my computer at 8 o'clock. Hey, babe, can you come take care of him? I had to restart my computer, so bear with me.
Guess what? If you elect me, you're not going to have your taxes are going to be raised.
Oh, it's going to play an ad. Great. This is going awesome. All right. Anyway, so he does these heads here, this head on this car here. Some of you may know this car. I would say many of you probably know it. We got no audio. This is Joel Grannis' Supra. This is the first, I believe it's the first 6-second H pattern stick shift car, which is amazing. I've seen this car in person. I saw this car last year at World Cup, and it was unbelievable. I mean, it looked, let's watch it make a pass here. I haven't watched this video. Here it is, probably. There we go. This was at Bradenton at the reunion earlier this year. I mean, it's so smooth. It's amazing. It almost doesn't even look all that crazy. But I've seen that car in person at World Cup last year, and it didn't look like that at all. It was just crazy, out of control. So they've done a lot of work with that. It looks like a lot of work in the clutch. Obviously, it makes killer power. Not an NA car, but Head Games does the head on that one. They do the heads for a lot of the Calvo Vipers, the NA ones. I did Purple ACR. That was the Calvo 9-liter when it was naturally aspirated. It made well into the 700s NA. That car has moved on to being a twin turbo, sequential car you may see on YouTube quite a bit. And it still has the same heads on it, but it did very well naturally aspirated. He's done some drag radial stuff. Hold some records there, all kinds of stuff. Let's see. Hold on one sec real quick. Give me just a sec, guys, and then hold on. Dave wants to get on and comment. I don't see him in here, so let me try and get him in here real quick. I'm not sure if he knows how to get there. Let me help him out. Sorry about that. Anyway, some other stuff that he's done. He's going to get in here and comment in just a second. I'm looking it up right now. He was telling me on Facebook, and my computer's not working. Oh, well. Anyway, hopefully he gets in here in just a minute. Let me go over some of your questions here real quick, and I want to go over Austin's car a little bit further. Or actually, we'll just do that real quick first. Here's some of the pictures of the head work that Dave did. He's going to be, I believe he developed a CNC program on this setup, so that will be available. I'm not sure if we'll be selling that sort of service or not, or just send you directly to him. But Head Games is there's Head Games. There we go. He's in here in the chat if anybody wants to hit him up directly. Let's see. Man, Simon is just lit up today. Anyway, here's a couple more pictures of his work. He's just awesome. He does killer work. Like I said, there's some of the chamber stuff. He did everything on this setup, set up the valve springs, basically set up the whole head ready to bolt on. So I would definitely hit him up. We work with a lot of people. He's not the only game in town, but I like working with him. You guys have noticed in the past, I like working with like smaller operations, and I don't know volume wise in heads what he does, but you deal directly with him when you work with him, with his company, and that's kind of nice. So instead of like a big volume like CNC deal, while these are CNC'd, the program was developed on Austin's head, if I'm correct. But you're still dealing with a smaller place that's just a little bit easier to deal with, it seems like, in the performance game. NMRA Bowling Green. I'm not sure. We'll see. I'm on the fence. That's a pretty long ride for us. The big issue with Bowling Green is right now I'm concentrating on the GT500, and the problem with that at an NMRA race is they've been very heavily enforcing safety rules, which I don't really blame them for that, but I'm not putting a cage in my GT500. So I'll be going to FL2K in a couple weeks for sure, and then beyond that, I don't really know. NMRA events are kind of out for me for any of the street car stuff, which is what I'm focused on right now. I'd like to bring my red car out sometime in the next 6 months, but right now I'm just too focused on other things. It's just not going to happen. Anyway, Adrian Martinez, Head Games. I'll speak for Dave a little bit here. Probably not packages on his website. I can probably help him get together some of those packages, and we can get together like common things for you. But he doesn't do super high volume, so it's more like, you can get with him and he could like recommend certain things based on your goals with your project. So that's the advantage with working with somebody like him. Yeah, Kelly, that's the problem. You're right. But the issue is, and I don't blame the NMRA. Their hands are tied like heavily. What are they supposed to do? I mean, their insurance is involved, obviously, in that decision. I don't know if something specifically happened. I was at an NMRA event. Crap. I don't even know. Like over 10 years ago, probably. It was at North Carolina, and the woman driving the drag radial car, she had a drive shaft failure, and it was the type of car, that had an open drive shaft tunnel, but it was supposed to have, the cage was built around that, but the cage failed when the drive shaft failed, and wrapped around her arm, and it was a huge deal for them and all that, and and she had a certified cage. And there's still a big legal battle there, I believe. So I could only imagine if they were sent somebody down the track without any safety cage, at least, and had an issue. So, on these smaller events, I suppose. On these smaller events, I suppose that they don't care as much, or they're not really worried about insurance, or maybe they have better insurance or whatever. But the NMRA is a big type of deal. So it unfortunately kills the street car game pretty bad for those guys. But anyway, so that's where we're at. I want to watch. Let's see. Oh, what's this? Dave sent me a link. Oh, that's the Granite stuff. We watched that one already. Not that exact one. Oh, Dave has a good voodoo package set up too. They work with Fat House. This is for Fat House, which is, again, another top-notch company, awesome company to deal with. All their products are great. Their GT500 package is great. Oh, you guys can't see that. I was supposed to be playing that. There you go. You guys, everybody knows about the Fat House GT350s. Somebody asked me recently about putting a Motec in one and trying to do a setup like this, and I jokingly said, but it really wasn't a joke. I said, if I wanted a twin turbo GT350 with a Motec in it, I probably would just try to buy a Fat House one, because they put together a really good package. People don't get how difficult it is and how many iterations you go through to get to a final package like their GT350 setup. So it's not something you just throw together, especially all the integrations with the Motec that Corbin has done. Lots of people are capable of that, but that doesn't replace the time. It's a big recipe to get something like that going. It's not just being able to do it. It's the time. it's the experience over time where you can make it better and better and better. So anyway, they're kick-ass setup. I forgot that he did the heads for them, so that's awesome. Let's see. Yeah, Head Games does a lot of hand stuff. These, I believe, he developed the CNC program on Austin's heads. All right, guys, I'm reading a couple comments here real quick. Sorry, just catching up. It's just easy. Just order a tune for 93 and the 85 on the 350. I want to go to Fat House, but their prices are just a tad steep, in my opinion, even given quality. Yeah, you know, the price thing comes up all the time. I mean, it comes up on not just Fat House, other shops I've dealt with. And, you know, I've dealt with a lot of different shops, and it's not always you get what you pay for. That's for sure. There's a lot of shops that are expensive and you don't get what you pay for. But, you know, in certain instances, when it comes down to work, it's hard to 100% say that, like, labor, straight up labor, because the problem is no matter how good of a mechanic you are, you always make mistakes. So if you talk to enough people, you might have somebody who had an issue here or there with almost any shop labor wise. But Fat House, and I'm sure all their products aren't perfect either, but I do appreciate the way they go through the design process. I appreciate how they design their twin turbo kit. I mean, it's exactly how I would do it. You know, I saw that early on. You know, I talked to Ben early on about that kit and saw pictures, and I'm not sure if he sent them to me or I just saw them online, but you know, it's great. So you can't really replace that. I mean, you can go down the street and ask your buddy to weld together a kit, and he might be a great welder, but there's a lot of other little things when it comes into designing a kit like that. So, you know, they should charge for it. If they have a line, you know, their prices are determined by I guarantee they're busy, right? If they're charging those prices, because if they weren't busy and they were charging those prices, they wouldn't be open. So there has to be a way to either you expand as you get busier and bigger and better at what you do, which we've done. Hopefully we've gotten better at it, but we've definitely gotten bigger since we started, is you have to decide, do I expand or do I keep things smaller and raise my prices? Those are really, or a combination of them, of course. You know, and I don't know the situation at Fat House, but I don't see them hiring people nonstop, or it doesn't seem like it. So I think in their case, they kind of want to keep it smaller and controlled, at least maybe early on at this stage, so their prices, you know, are higher. Because the problem when you start adding people to a business like that, especially a business where specifically the fabrication of the turbo kits, it's almost like an art form a little bit. You know, it's hard to get somebody to work for you that's going to give you the same level of quality that you can do yourself, you know. And Jeremy obviously is a badass with the welder. So anyway, Serpent Stangs, what's up? Road racing. See, you know, it's funny. Everybody always sees all these drag racing videos and 1,000 horsepower and all that stuff, and like, oh yeah, but you know, the GT500s for road racing. I'm like, a lot of my customers are road racing too. We don't post about it because, you know, I would post. I don't have video of it, but I would post about it. I'm gonna go. I just been so busy my car has 3,000 miles on it still because it's just all dyno miles. So that's really the issue with my car, and that, you know, that's why I'm modifying it the way I'm modifying it, because I want to still be able to do that. But we've got a lot of customers that still hit the road course, and I'm sure it's just going to get. I'd say it's going to get more and more popular on our end. Probably more than half my questions on newer cars are about road course cars. The drag racing guys obviously are the first batch of guys that are going to be aggressive and tune them, and the road racing guys are starting starting to do it now too. Obviously you do both, or I don't know. Do you do both or you just road race? I don't remember. Sean B. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure who that was. I know who it is. You got your blower coming, the throttle body. Yeah. Jeff said you're good on the throttle body. I'll double check with him. But we'll get you one. If I have to take the one off my car and overnight at T, I will, because I'm in the middle of a few things at the moment with the car. Wow, that's fastest Mustang ever around NCM Motorsports Park. I wish I knew a little bit more about all the different road race cars, but like, how does that compare to like, you know, a GT3, you know, the car that everybody wants to compare it to? What do those guys do? What's up, Walt? Yeah, street racing. Yeah, there's, you know, the ones you're going to see, the GT500s, the most of are the street racing and the drag racing. Because that's, you know, there's going to be more people doing that. It's just easier, obviously. It's easier to go to the drag strip and pay $20 or whatever it is, or just roll out with your buddies and do some road racing on the street with your GoPro. But there's a lot of guys road racing. The problem with road racing and like really, there's no way to advertise it. Drag racing, obviously everybody's on the same exact length course, hopefully at least. And you know, roll racing, it's just a heads up deal, so you faster than that guy. When it comes to road racing, it's hard to get a sense of speed on video. Road racing videos can tend to be a little bit boring if you're not there, and they're extremely exciting if you're there in the car, but on video they're not as good. And then there's no way to really quantify exactly how well you're doing, or qualify, or both, I guess, to quantify if it's a lap time. If everybody was on the same course, yeah, but that doesn't happen. So that's why you don't see as many people talking about the road racing stuff. Look at that, Sean. Look at this service. You got your shipping update in the comments. Your throttle body is shipping soon. For those of you guys wanting a throttle body, we're going to go over the billet lid here in just a second. I mean, for those of you guys that haven't seen it, we did a back-to-back video on the billet lid on my car at medium boost, and it did outstanding. I'm guessing at really high boost, it's going to do really well. I don't know that I want to do this for sure, so I'm not going to make any promises, but I do plan on putting the new SPE auxiliary idler on my car with a 2.275 pulley, and you know, going for broke with it later this week. At the end of that, maybe I'll swap on the stock lid so we can see what the gains are at, you know, I suspect I'm going to see so I'm hoping at 1150, the gains of the lid are 50 plus, which I'm guessing there's a very good chance of that. Jeff, 9-second GT500 suspension mods. Yeah, you don't need them. I mean, well, I have one suspension mod. I don't have it installed yet, but you know, all these cars are on MagneRide, and nobody's really gonna. Well, first off, suspension. There's a couple. The vertical links, a couple people are changing because of wheel clearance. Whether they are needed or helpful, I'm not sure yet. I have SPE has a set. Cortex Racing has a set. I have the Cortex ones. I didn't put them on the car yet. Although, I'll tell you what, I think my wheel did flex just a little bit and hit the part that these vertical links are trying to create clearance on. So anyway, you know, they're all MagneRide. I have the DSC MagneRide controller for it, which is fully tunable. It looks really cool. I got the software all set up, but I just haven't had time to I don't really see a point in putting a suspension controller on the car if I don't know what it'll do without like stock. So I'm going to try to get the car in somewhat of a final form, drag racing wise, make as many passes as I can. And then I may, you know, at that point, take it to the road course, but probably not at that point, based on where we end up, I'll put the suspension controller in it and then try and tune it and see if I can get any gains there. And then I'll eventually do the same thing on the road course. The road course, when it comes to suspension adjustments, is going to be, it's hard to really say for sure if it did well or not, because there's so much more that goes into the driving. Where on drag racing, you can really say for sure if you're doing well or not with the suspension. Anyway, Jeff, tunnel mod port. Yeah. So let's talk. We'll go over the lid in just a second, but let's talk about, for those of you that don't know, late model Throttle works with Joker's performance on the machine work side of things, and everything. The things like the lid, it's stuff. A lot of these things are launched in group chats and it too, and pricing and all that. So anyway, as far as Jeff, real quick, back to the suspension. Yeah, no, they don't break axles or wheel hop, but you have to realize there's a major thing going on the GT500s. We really haven't unlocked the full potential of them because we're not getting full power in first gear. So you're not really going to push the suspension or wheel hop or break things yet till we figure that out or get past that. So that's something we have to get past. So once we do, then we may have to adjust those problems, but that has not been a problem yet. Barrett, I would just, on a Boss, I would do a Gen 5 3.0. No doubt about it. That thing, it's a badass blower. I like the stock blower, and I love doing all this stuff to it, and then the billet lid and all that. Oh, what I was going to get it to on late model Throttle, what he mentioned in the comments over here was the tunnel mod. So since I've been working with Jokers and late model, there's been, I think we're on our third or fourth revision. And that's another thing I really like about those guys is they're constantly trying to up the ante, get ahead, and put in the work. This lid was a tremendous amount of work. Jeff knocked it out. I don't know exactly if Jeff gets help on any of the design work or does that too. But all of it, was within a couple weeks to the minute I got it in my hands. So, we talked about it a while back, but he didn't start on it until a couple weeks ago. So the newest setup, the initial setup that you guys have all seen on my car up until fairly recently was, I'd call their stage 1 port. And then there's like a stage 2 port that the stage 1 is just on the inlet side of the blower. The stage 2 has some things done on the outlet side of the blower, which we thought made some differences. And then they recently just did a new test on Mark's car, which is the tunnel mod. And what that does is on the, I don't think I want to show any pictures of it. No, I don't want to show any pictures of this yet. But if you look down into the throat of the blower, there's a cast-in tunnel for the drive of the supercharger for the pulley. You've got the pulley, and then it's got the shaft on it, and then the coupler to drive the rotor. That's all encased inside of a cast-in piece, which really blocks airflow to the one rotor. So, sorry guys, man. Anyway, so Jeff's, I don't know whose idea it was. I think it was Jeff's. Jeff's idea was to cut all that out and, create a clear path to that rotor. And they recently tested that, and that picked up very well also. So that is not on my car yet. So now we do that to my car. We've got the new lid and the throttle body and pretty much what I'm at now, plus fully turned up SPE fuel system, maybe 1200s in the carts. So that's what I'm hoping for. Oh, wow. So you're within a second. That's awesome, Steve. You're within a second of the lap record. Snoop Dogg's GT500 tuned by us. If that's true, that would be hilarious. I think I would know that, but if not, that'd be hilarious. That's all I got to say. Although I don't really like Snoop Dogg's politics. I don't mind Snoop Dogg, though. I've seen Snoop Dogg in concert downtown West Palm Beach. Why is the DTC slower than the 10-speed auto? Lots of reasons. It's pretty much a stick car that you don't have to shift. All right, I'm going to go through a couple more of these comments, and we're going to show some lid stuff. MCTs on the road course. You know, that's a good question on the road course. I would say you would want them a little bit lower. We see 180, 190 on the drag strip, but if you can't keep them at 160-ish or lower, I'd like to work on that. You know, one thing that we are going to work on as far as the cooling on this stuff is a new heat exchanger. Hypothetically, where would we be if the Coyote platform never existed? That's a very good question. I was already doing the car thing, but, you know, I'm glad I put the time in on the modulars because that was the predecessor to the Coyote for sure. But back then we were definitely redheaded stepchild. Barrett, NA. I'm sorry, I forgot we were talking about NA. On the Boss. I mean, we've done cams with the Boss and a CJ intake and made 500 plus. So that's about, you know, I don't really see doing a whole lot more without really digging into it. Okay, 165 at the end of the straights. I'm okay with that. Modular cheapo days. Yeah, I miss those days. All right, let's talk about the lid real quick. Who here saw the video? I guess we can just show that off really quick. Let me take a look.
All right, I got it all installed, and for being a
sorry about that. All right, look at picture in picture with my head. All right, so real quick, you guys, we'll just go through this real quick because I'm guessing a lot of you guys have already seen it, but we went through. I'm just going to keep the volume off. But I want to review real quick for those of you that aren't really familiar with what we're doing here. The top of the supercharger lid redirects the air from, it starts in that front hole, it goes down into the rotors and then shoots straight up from the rotors into that block, which is the intercooler. And then it has to hit that little gap at the top there and turn in either direction. So what we did was, well, I guess what Jeff did was one thing I'll point out right now, people are asking about the looks of it. What we're going to do is, unfortunately, you know, in the perfect world, we would engrave that snake in there and that would just be completely badass. There's just no doubt about it. Unfortunately, that's just not an option. You know, we have to deal with copyright stuff like that. I mean, we may do one-off types here and there, but we can't sell it that way. So one option will be, and we'll go over this. I got a couple drawings. We'll offer it kind of blank, and then you can just keep it that way. Or, I mean, I guess you can engrave it yourself, but I don't really think I like that idea. But Jeff can engrave something for you custom. But we're also going to offer it where it looks just like this. Not the ribbing, we'll have our ribbing, but it'll have machined out perfectly for that Cobra metal emblem, just like stock. You can buy that metal emblem. I'm going to include that with the billet lid. And then obviously I can't make you a new hand-built with Pride engine tag, but the reason I'm offering a new snake is it's kind of fragile. I've already dented mine, and I would guess it'd be very difficult to get out of that. So, but we are going to have to try and get the engine tag off. I'm going to try that on mine tomorrow. But that looks a lot easier to get off, a lot smaller. So, and if it bends just a little bit, I'm guessing you can still be gentle enough with it to reuse it. So anyway, the idea is that the lid's going to look like this, except with our ribbing. And then we're going to offer it it'll be anodized with included in the price, which if you haven't seen it, we're doing an introductory price of $15.99. And, $17.99 is going to be the normal price. And we've already got a few orders in. Obviously, this takes a little bit of time. We'd like to do them in batches. So if you want one, you're going to want to get it on this first batch so they can all go to the anodizer together. And then we'll do another batch. So I'm not really going to hold up anybody if, they've paid. So a few people have already paid. I'll give it another day or two, and then that'll be batch 1. I was hoping to do 10 in the first batch. We haven't really gotten that many yet. 3 or 4, I think, we've sold. So you got a few more days, and then we'll get all those orders in together. Jeff's got material coming, and we'll get the first, however many ordered. I don't know. I'll probably just get 10 made one way or another, whether I sell them or not, and then we have them in stock. But anyway, let's go over the results real quick. Oh, no, we're going to show the inside of it versus stock. That's what I was going to show you. All right, hopefully I'm back. I'm going to wait till I get some comments so I know I'm back before I keep going. Must have had a little blip in our internet here at home. Can you guys hear me? Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm going to give it just a second before I keep going. All right, cool. All right, anyway, so back to the inside of the lid. There's the inside of the lid. Now picture my hand being the top of the intercooler. You now have a large gap in there that has a nice radius right there. To allow the air to turn, it's going to come down through the back of my hand and turn. Whereas if you look over on the stock lid over here, the intercooler goes right to the top of the lid almost, and there's just that little tiny gap in there for the air. So that's, not just the gap, but the shape of it and everything is really kind of important. So anyway, we'll go over the results real quick. Okay, so what I did was I baselined the car with a 2.6 pulley. We've made more power than this by a good chunk, but I wanted to dyno it somewhere in the middle of, at least to begin with, where it's going to be. We want to go backwards and put it on like a stockish vehicle just to see. I'm not so sure it would pick up anything, but just to see. And then, of course, I'm going to turn up the boost. But to start, I wanted to start here. So we're just barely over 1,000 horsepower. And we'll just go ahead and fast forward. You can go back and watch all this. So there's the gains right there. I mean, that is just amazing. Look at that. That's weird. It's because I used green. And it's a weird green screen effect. But anyway, that line you can see through there is the green line. So you're seeing, we saw gains on the first pull of 34. The second pull was 33, then 34. And then, got a little warm, so it went down. But it's just really did exactly what we expected it to, which doesn't always work out. So anyway, let's go over the lid look a little bit. Yeah, Sean, it's just a much better radius up out of the intercooler and, much better. So looks like I lost a lot of people on that. Hopefully they come back. So we'll go over the some of the newest stuff about the lid here. This is the back. Some of you guys may have seen the LMT logo and the Palm Beach Dyno logo on the top. I'm not that type of guy that's going to throw my logo up there and make you run my logo on, especially on a product like this. I mean, it's, front and center on the car. And I wouldn't. I mean, I have it on my car right now, but I don't really want Palm Beach Dyno logo front and center like that. Even though I'm super proud of my company and I love it, it's just not really meant for that. So we put it on the back. This is on the back. Nobody's going to see it, but we just want to have our name on there. So that's what you got there. Let's see. And then here, right here, that's obviously the snake, as if it was going to be machined in. We can't really do that, but that's roughly going to be where it lines up and works out for the metal plate when we put it in there. Now, we are going to offer some custom engravings. Here's another shot of the snake, but we can't do that. So now I did consult some people on licensing the snake. And I know some companies have licensed Ford stuff in the past and companies that I know. So I was like, all right, great. Maybe we can license the snake. This is going to be great. So I looked into it. I found it on Ford's website and I started looking into the process and doing it. But then when I started talking to a friend of mine that was in the business, he told me that Ford has pulled back a lot of that licensing. He was licensed and, if you aren't doing high volume with Ford, they just decided not to deal with you at all. And he was definitely doing more than I'm going to do with just a supercharger lid, and they pulled back on him. So his solution, sorry guys, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't get that out. So his solution was to redesign the snake just a little bit, because for copyright reasons, if you redesign it, that helps. So we did go down that route with this setup. So we've been working really hard on it. And here's the new design of the snake that we're going to go with. There you go. What do you guys think of that? Here, I'll zoom in for you. I know it's hard to tell the changes we made there, but you know, I think they're subtle enough to pass copyright laws, but you know, that'll still look great on your car and really, you know, make people know you mean business. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. We did that as a joke. Here's another view. The Rob-headed snake. I did think about redesigning a snake. Like other people have done to put on there, but I don't know, man. I just don't think I can get around that. So I think the best plan moving forward is either let's see, we can get it to you blank like this. This is what it would look like blank. And then at that point, we can custom engrave something for you there. You can custom engrave something there. You can put your own plaque there. I really think most people are going to want the snake. That's why I'm going to offer that included in it. And then as far as finish on it, we're going to offer it in clear anodized and black anodized to begin with. I suppose we can entertain some custom color requests if they're out there. Obviously, that might be an extra cost. So anyway, we're just about an hour into this. I want to make this a short one, guys. So if you guys have any questions or want to talk about any specific topics, now would be a good time to bring it up. I'm going to try and cough one more time to get this out of my throat. All right. Yeah, I think I got COVID. For those of you that don't know Dave from Head Games, you should get on his Facebook. I actually had... Let me see. I'll do that real quick. I had one of his videos queued up here to show you. But when I had to restart my computer, I lost everything. But I'll find it real quick. All right, here we go. This is Dave from Head Games.
This is Uncle Johnny. Weather in the storm. We will get through this together, let me tell you. For I'm Uncle Johnny. Howdy, boys and girls.
Anyway, enough of that. He has all kinds of funny stuff on there. He's a character, but he's obviously really good at what he does. He has another funny one that he did with... I remember this one because it was such. It's been a topic on and off so much. Is the what do you call it? The golf ball surfacing of like heads, and he did a video about if it worked or not. But he made it into a joke and had a set of heads. He was standing outside in threw them like a golf ball to see which one went further. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, let's see what kind of questions you guys have. Mark, why have some GT500s grenaded stock with low miles? I would say it's a materials issue. Obviously not across all of the GT500s, or else they would all be doing it. But in all the cases that I've seen where they've had an issue, it's been a valve issue where the head popped off the valve. Those are not one-piece valves. So maybe the material or how they're fused together or any of that stuff. So, you know, I would assume... Well, I don't know, man. You know, mine's been beaten so hard on a dyno. I can't imagine I would have an issue at this point. But I only have 3,000 miles, and I know Brett from Jokers had a couple thousand on his. Most of the other ones went earlier than his, but his took a little bit longer. News on the 3.8 Whipple and Kenny Bell. Yes, Kenny Bell. More tuning was done on that by Jerry. Last week, they got a lot of little things figured out on that we were trying to figure out. I didn't get a chance to go out to California to do that, unfortunately. So I don't know the exact update on the Kenny Bell kit, but that car is running and running well. Then the Whipple, you're a little bit further out on that. You know, you're talking, I don't think they have a casting yet. So, you know, Kenny Bell's using a modified version of their Coyote kits that works great. But Whipple is going straight to the 3.8, so they had to wait for the casting and all that. So I don't know. I think we're probably like, I don't know, eight weeks maybe? 8 weeks before we see something with Whipple. I'm not really sure. But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, the 3.0 Whipple is such a badass blower. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I love that blower. Carlos's car is just such a... I can't even explain how impressed I am with that thing, making the power it made on a 3.5. And it's really cool that I get to drive it too. So we'll be doing more with that car real soon. Basically, FL2K. Carl, an inch taller wouldn't fit. You know, we wanted to keep it under the strut tower brace. Most of the modifications, all the modifications I'm doing to my vehicle are made with the intent to not permanently or make anything. I don't want to make anything unreversible to keep it off the road course. And keep the strut tower brace. I don't want to, everybody's going to want to keep the strut tower brace, I think, or most people. So it has to fit under that. You know, it would be an interesting experiment to do one without the brace on it and just not have to worry about clearing it and make it larger. And, you know, there's possibly some gains there, but the strut tower brace was mandatory in my opinion. Bert, yes, we did see about a half a PSI less in the end. You know, these were back-to-back pulls in that video. And it was about half a PSI. It's hard to say exactly. If you look at the data logs, the map sensor is a little noisy, but you can look for trends. And it actually made the boost signal a little less noisy and lowered it just a little bit. Revit Racing cams on a TT Gen 3 TT Mustang. I don't know, man. It would be very hard to justify cams, in my opinion, on a Gen 2 or Gen 3 twin turbo. We went 7s with stock cams on a 680 car with a Gen 2. So I just don't really see it. You know, it makes sense on an NA car because you're looking for every last ounce of power. But, you know, the cams in a Gen 2 or 3 are pretty decent. And, you know, you're not really pushing your luck with those. You just, you know, keep adding boost. That's much better than trying to add cams. I mean, it just depends on what you're doing with it. If it's a street car, then I don't really see it. Pedro, 2020 GT500, 900 rural horsepower and 85 range is safe for engine and transmission. Well, considering some have blown up stock, nothing is safe. That's really the answer. I mean, it sounds like a smart-ass answer, but it's not. It's just, there's just no way I could say anything's safe because there's ones that are having issues without anything done to them at all. So, when you modify yours, how do you know if it's a failure similar to what the stock one was, or was it from the modifications you did? You just don't know. it seems like 900 is safe. I mean, we've made, it seems like almost all of them are making 900. Well, all the E85 ones are with a pulley. And, you know, we haven't had a single issue yet, I would tell you guys. I mean, that's important for everybody to know, especially in a new application like this, a new platform. And we've had zero engine issues or any issues that I know of anything breaking. We've had tuning issues that we think stuff is broken, but it's all been tuning related. Eric, a while back, I showed a billet dog bone for the 500. Did not see that you installed. No, I didn't do them yet. I want to do this for wheel clearance, but I haven't had a chance to put them on yet. And I just got the car aligned. I could probably still swap that out without a problem. I was doing it mostly for wheel clearance. I can't. My car, I did have I just got it lined, and I had a problem with the factory alignment, which I could tell driving the car. The front's it's still a little bit out of whack. You know, the base model doesn't come with camber plates, which is a problem. I'm off a good chunk front, left to right. But the rear was like out of whack too, from the factory. And I could feel it, driving around. I mean, it handled good, but it had a little bit of a mind of its own. Now, man, it drives so good. I love it. Cody Woodward, I'm not sure if you have answered this, but did the new lid help out with IATs? I mean, it's hard to really, I was going to do a section on this, but I wasn't really prepared for it, and I'm not really sure that many people care. I was going to go over the data logs for the lid tests, and maybe we'll do that. You know, maybe I was talking about doing this stuff on Facebook once in a while. Maybe we'll do that, like later this week on Facebook for the 5 people that care about looking at data logs. We'll go over that. But real quickly, on a dyno, the dyno runs are fairly short. So they're not realistic for evaluating IATs. I mean, you can look at trends, and that's really all you can look at, but you're not going to look at final numbers. So the real answer is we need to see what they do at the track and on the street. But I did 3 pulls before, 3 pulls after. Logging everything. I compared the beginning of the pull to the end of the pull and the IAT spread on during the pull, averaged them out, blah, 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 blah. And the trends that I saw is we saw about a half PSI to a PSI. You know, it's really a judgment call looking at the logs because the data is noisy. But a half PSI less a boost and probably 2 to 3 degrees less of rise in inlet air temperature throughout just that short pull. On average, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I think sustained, it may help out a lot more. Low to high. Wait, where did I get? Head games. He wanted to know about, okay, you got it there. How much to port the heads? $3,200 for the port work, the guides, the valve job, and assembly plus parts, with his own spring kit. So that's what heads cost. Mark, worth porting our heads. Mark has a GT500 2020. If yes, Jeff, I'll drop them off. I don't know. You know, they're CNC ported from the factory. That doesn't mean, you know, people say, oh, it's CNC ported, or, oh, it has this stage cam, and like, well, I know in the details, you don't really know. Like, I'm sure they're a decent head. I don't know who does the heads for the GT500 or how they're done, or you know how that works. But they're definitely CNC ported, so they're definitely good heads. So I don't know, man. I can't really see it being worth it, but you never know. Somebody's got to try it. Low to high. Tremec should just allow trans tuning already. If we break it, we break it. I agree. I mean, that's my opinion. We're going to break it one way or another, whether they help us or not. So if they help us, it would make their transmission look a lot better. And the problem is I think some of the guys there probably would see it that way. But, you know, when you're talking about corporations and, you know, the legalities that go along with it and the contracts that go along with it, you know, obviously, who knows what their agreement is with Ford. I believe Ford is invested in that factory or this program for this trans, and there could be all kinds of legal issues involved with that. So who knows? I don't know. I'm making all that up. Like, just guessing, but it's probably related to a lot of that. So my point is, I don't think we're going to get any help from Tremec. Now, Tremec, I heard, this is rumor, that they're going to release performance TCMs through Ford Performance, but I don't know that those will be suitable for these 1,000 horsepower cars. I would suspect that there could be an improvement, or at least the shift points being raised would be beneficial by a lot. But I don't know. You know, lucky for us, we tuned Donnie Walsh's car, who's with D&D Performance in Michigan. They do transmissions with Tremec. They're tight with Tremec, you know, very tight with Tremec. So, and even he's not getting any kind of direct help, but there is a direct line of communication open between Tremec and Donnie from D&D, who, you know, they have their own GT500 that's been 9s already. So there's some stuff going on there. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to give any details. Let's see. Sleeve Gen 3, 5.2 block or Bear. I don't know anybody really doing much with the Bear blocks. I was excited about those when they came out, but some people had issues. I don't know if it's a block or whatever, but we're doing great with a regular sleeve Gen 3 block. So I don't really see the point in going there. Sorry, Bear, if you're watching this. Mohammed, do we tune V6 Mustangs? Yeah, we do. Not a lot. We don't really push them. But yeah, we tune them. We just don't get a lot of requests for it, probably because we don't really talk about it. But yeah, we tune in person. We tune anything really that's Ford and newer. Any EcoBoost. Now the EcoBoost stuff makes it a little difficult for us because we currently only have a 2-wheel drive dyno, and a lot of the EcoBoosts are all-wheel drive. But I'll tune them on the street and then take them over to our buddies' all-wheel drive dyno and dyno them if you want. And we tune them all remotely. And then we tune pretty much any newer. In person, we'll tune any 96 and newer. Remotely, we tune any 2011 and newer Mustang. We do older stuff by request, and it basically depends on the project, like Cobras and older GT500s and stuff like that. Or GTs, but it just really depends on the project and where it is. If you're an older car, older than 2011, and you want your car dyno tuned by us, it has to be on a dyno, at a dyno shop that we've dealt with. They don't necessarily have to be like a dealer of ours, but we have to either have heard of them or want to work with them. When we're trying to remote tune a car on a dyno, if we haven't dealt with that dyno shop before, it seems like a lot of the times it doesn't go very smoothly. So when we're trying to do an older car that's already a little bit difficult to deal with, we definitely want to have a good relationship with the dyno operator. Boosted Kev 302. Any thoughts on the power limit of the DCT? The big limit's going to be the clutch. And right now, you know, we're okay. And then we're going to be doing a clutch. Dan from SPE is pulling the transmission out of their development vehicle to do the Datsun clutch. Iconic. GT500 is doing the SSP clutch, so we're already testing clutches, and you know, after that, you know, you're talking about breaking hard parts, and I hope we're not going to do any of that. So I think you're going to see more broken DCTs after we get tuning than you do now, because it's probably going to be easy, depending on what kind of access we have to the tuning, to break them. So. Anyway, we're a little over an hour into this, guys. Let's get some more questions in, and then I'm going to hit the road. I didn't eat again before this, and my food's behind me cold again. Yes, we have tried nitrous on the GT500. Revit Racing asks if we tried nitrous on the 2020 GT500 on stock trim, and if so, what 100 shot? Oh, not on stock trim. The only nitrous GT500 that I've done so far is lease, but that's on top of 1,050-ish probably horsepower. No, I wouldn't think 100. I would not spray. There's no way I would spray a stock GT500 without a tune. The big issue with the GT500 that you're going to face on any question sort of like that is going to be the stock catalytic converters. They're fragile to begin with, and if you add that kind of power without accounting for it, you're probably going to melt a cat. And if there's a very good chance of you hurting the engine if you hurt a cat on these because of reversion and the placement of them and pulling pieces of the catalytic converter back into the engine. You're really asking for trouble there. Mark, are they sleeved? No, they are not. Not like what we're talking about with the thick sleeves. Again, it's hard to say. I mean, we won't really know until we take one of these apart after we've been beating on them and see how the bores look and if they're egg-shaped or they look good and things like that. So I'm of the opinion if it's not broke, don't fix it. So, I mean, it depends on how much power you're going to want to make, you know. I mean, we're making well into the 1,100 horsepower range, 1,200 horsepower. That's a lot of power for most people. And I think this engine is probably okay there. So I'd probably leave it alone. Low to high. Yeah, it is sad to see Lee is selling his car, but you know, the nice thing about that is they always make new ones every year. And I'm sure Lee will be back. You know, that's just a personal decision he had to make, but you know, I understand 100%. Mohammed, SCT device from Iraq. Yes, we do remote tuning. On SCT, it depends on the year. We only support 17 and earlier on, which if it's a V6, I guess it's going to be. How much do you think A10 would do in the 2020 GT500 at the drags? Carl Condon asked. I don't know. I mean, at that point, it's just a regular Mustang GT with a snake badge on it, in my opinion. I mean, what makes it different? You can put a blower on an A10 Mustang GT for a lot cheaper than putting an A10 into a GT500. And with a Whipple, you know, like give you an example. Let's use my car as an example. My car makes 1,100 at the wheels. And, you know, it's badass. But then you take a Mustang GT and you can easily make 1,100 at the wheels. I mean, you're probably going to want to build the engine, but that's not a whole big chunk of money on top of it compared to what a GT500 costs. And then you've already got the A10. And with the same 1,100 horsepower, you're going to go, you know, mid-8s as opposed to like mid to low 9s. So if you're a drag racer, the A10's the way to go. I'm a drag racer, so I have drag racing cars, but this car is about an all-around performer. But it's certainly not. If you're going to have one car and you're a hardcore drag racer, then the Mustang GT is the obvious choice. Kevin Parsons, 2015 GT500 or GT 2.9 Whipple, slight throttle. The car bucks and feels like it's being held back. Any suggestions? I mean, it's, you know, you got to look at a data log first. If we tune it, I would log it and send in a log. Most likely it's the tune. Whipples are a little challenging to tune. So, you know, there's a good chance of that. Need to know what throttle body's on it. It shouldn't definitely do that with the stock throttle body if it has the 132 and it's not tuned properly, or even if it's tuned properly, sometimes you got to tweak it a little bit. Darwin Perez, hi Ken. I have a 2020 GT500 with just upgrading the tune to 93 octane. How fast? The car should go in the quarter mile. Be safe. You know, just a tune only, you're going to pick up. I'd have to go back and look, man. It's been a little bit since I've done tune only on the dyno with, you know, on just 93. Most people are doing a little bit more. But you're probably going to pick up a couple mile an hour and like 0.2 in the quarter mile, probably something like that. The biggest issue is, like I said, the catalytic converters. You can't really lean on them too hard with those on there. Eric, do you think someone might have a GT500 drag class at an event? No. Because the problem, it's the same problem I was talking about earlier with NMRA. It's, that would typically happen at an NMRA event, an all-Ford event. They're real open to that sort of stuff normally. But now the GT500 with the mods we're doing is going mid-9s, and that's not legal. And, you know, in years past, they kind of used to look up the other way a little bit. But for, you know, for all sorts of reasons, they've been really cracking down on that. So they're not going to do a class. You know, if they were going to do a class and it was going to be a bunch of 10.0 cars or 10.2 cars, and maybe somebody might dip into the 990s. But a class like that is going to be all 9-second cars, maybe an 8-second car, all without cages. So I don't think you're going to see that at a large national event. You know, maybe at some of the smaller events, GT500 specific. You know, other events like, you know, FL2K and, you know, maybe Texas, you might get away with running a car like that, but probably not a GT500 event, because that type of event brings in all the different brands. So I'm not sure you would get them to do just GT500s. Now we could probably do that at like you know, we're gonna probably. I was planning on doing it earlier this year. Obviously, good thing we didn't, because the delays first on the delivery of the GT500, and then of course COVID. But maybe in January or February, I want to do a race invitation. I don't know what you would call it. I guess a race. It'd be more like a big track rental where we put together some classes, but it's more like a huge fun test and tune where everybody comes down to Florida, and it will be featuring GT500s, but not only GT500s, and we'll handle that more like a rental. So hopefully, as far as cages, we can get away with a little bit more there. Head games, can you throw more timing at a combo like Austin's because the chamber is softened? I have not seen that. You can throw, it'll take more timing, but it won't make more power. Comparing Austin's car to the BMR car, Dark Horse, it's very similar, same cams, both stock short blocks. So the big difference is stock head versus ported head. And we saw some major gains there, which I don't want to show you Austin's most recent Dyno Graph, so we can't really go over that exactly, but let's just say they were very good gains on the head games port, but the timing requirements were pretty much identical. We can get higher on Austin's car without any knock, but it didn't net any power gains, so no reason to go up that high. ProCharge S550 that we made a while back. I don't know what car that would be. We've done a couple ProCharge ones on the channel. I don't recall which one you might be talking about, and even if I did, I wouldn't know what pulley was on it probably. ProCharger, I love ProCharger. They're great blowers. Love Vortec, but the only real blower combos that I'm familiar with that I can just rattle pulleys off on top of my head are Whipple or like a stock GT500 or 15 through 17 Roush VMP cars, because we did so many of those. Loda High, do you think Ford will use the 5.2 in the next iteration of Mustangs, rumored to be the S650? I don't know. It'll be interesting. I would think so. I mean, whenever they change platforms like that, they like to do something. So I would think the 5.2 would come as a power bump, especially since the GT350 is gone. They don't have to worry as much about making those guys mad. So I think there's a good chance of that. I don't have any information, though. Revit Racing, where would you plumb the nitrous in a 2020 GT500 behind the throttle body? Or no, I would, like I said, we're spraying Lee's car. He just has a nozzle right in the cold air. I mean, ultimately, if you're really going to spray it, I think a setup, I would do direct to port. And our new billet lid would be great for that. Alex Garcia, what happened with the Plasma Man intake manifold comparison? We still may do that. The problem is pretty much the long runner intake is really the way to go for every car. The short runner is just not really going to work out really well. And plus my car hasn't been running, so that's why we haven't done the test. Terry Day. That's let me read the question. Maybe I missed it, but would head porting like Austin's car make much of a gain on a Whipple car? I'd be interested to see. It's just not a very common modification on the boosted vehicles because there's just so much left with adding boost that it doesn't often happen. Now with head porting, the difference is, especially on an 18 plus, is they're high compression. So with head porting, you may be able to make more on pump gas. And that's really the big, huge value that's possible there, maybe with head porting. Because on the 85, a pulley makes a little bit more sense than ripping your heads off and spending that kind of money. But now, all of a sudden, if I say, hey, you can pick up 40 horsepower naturally aspirated, well, then all of a sudden that becomes a very valuable modification. Excuse me, not naturally aspirated. 30, 40 horsepower on pump gas with a Whipple, then, that becomes a pretty worthwhile modification, I think. So, I don't know. If you want to try it, we can set you up with head games. Terry Reese, Ken, looking to build a 14 GT500 dart and sleeve with well-ported heads, planning to send the intake to be matched. Do you suppose there is any benefit to cleaning up the rough sides and port the 3.8? I think that's what you mean. Real quick, dart and sleeves. When you say that, just make sure you're not doing the wet sleeves. Those are not good. We've done a few of those and they never work. Yeah, GT500 intake porting, I would definitely do. I don't know all who does that. I know Jason at 1320 does it, and I think he has a lot of experience there, and he would definitely be a good choice. In fact, for GT5, I don't know who else does that. Honestly, that's probably who we would use. Stephen P. Odd question. I've wondered how a Whipple Gen 5 would work on a GT500. Well, you will see that. I mean, Whipple is just going straight to the 3.8 because I suppose, why not on the GT500? But I would the 3.0 will bolt on there, I would guess. And well, actually, I don't know. It may not. But the 3.0 would do phenomenal for sure. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the GT500 is a badass for sure, but at the end of the day, it's Coyote-based platform. There's differences and all between the 5.2 and all that, but what we're seeing on the power side is nothing new. What makes the GT500 a special car is the transmission, the brakes, everything, the balance. I mean, I'm just in love with the car still. I wish I had more time to drive it and not be taking it apart all the time. All right, guys, I'm going to give it about 5 more minutes, so get any questions in that you may have, and then we're going to wrap it up. Also, I'd like to hear what you guys might want to talk about next week. As the weeks progress here in the fall, we'll probably have a lot more drag racing passes to review. I'm also going to start going over things we do in the shop weekly. I meant to get prepared for that, going over like some really cool builds that we've done that unfortunately don't get the time that I'd like them to get with their own full video on our YouTube channel, but I'd at least like to go over them here. We have some really cool stuff that we've done recently. Yeah, the porting on a supercharged vehicle, I could see that actually being very, very useful on a Mustang GT 18 plus, especially for a pump gas car. Just because in my opinion, any blower car doesn't do really awesome 18 plus because of the compression. So if you could bring some of that back, man, that'd be a home run. Rick, any thoughts on running a 409 gear on an 18 NA 10R80 street car with CJ intake cams, full bolt-on stock converter? Yeah. That's what the BMR car was running, Dark Horse. I I think it had a converter in it, but it wasn't much looser than stock. And they went 10-1 at 137, and we're fighting the tight converter. You're going to fight the converter for sure. If you want that thing to work, I would go. We're testing a new converter for Circle D in Austin's car, and it seems like it's going to be really good. So we'll see how it works at the track, but it's looking good. So the 409, yeah, I think that would work. Kelly said too much gear. Austin's car has a 373 gear in it. And the other car that I was going to play, I don't think I played it. This is another. Let's look at this real quick. There's another NA car that we just recently did that's set up like Austin's car. These are not head games heads. I believe they were done by Brett Barber, and it's also the Brett Barber intake that gets cut apart and all that good stuff. We're not going to talk numbers on this, but let's just say we're hoping for a 9-second car here. Also, he's got a converter he's waiting on, and he's going to be going to the track soon. This is Rob's car you see here in the comments talking. His car did really, really well. As you can see us looking at the, I already turned it off, but anyway. His car did really well. We're not going to talk about numbers. He wants to keep those quiet for right now and get it all set up. He does street racing as well, in Mexico, of course, legal areas. And, but it did very, very well. So it's good to see, these guys, building some badass NA combos. I think his car's probably a little heavier than Austin's, but, it should be real close in performance. Eric, no. I would not see a value in a trans brake. That becomes the main reason to use a trans brake on any race vehicle, especially like a supercharged vehicle, is going to be for, like, let's say a race trans is going to be consistency at the track. But the problem is, like, so let's say you're launching a Coyote with a Turbo 400 or a Glide supercharged. So that's different, right? You don't have a whole ton of gear, first gear. You can work everything perfectly through the right converter, and it all works fine. And I've tuned lots of race cars like that are very successful and run well, as have lots of people. The problem comes when you're dealing with a 6 or 80 or 10 or 80 with the steep first gear. So now all of a sudden, you're going to leave it a much lower RPM. So trans brake, normally you need like a 2-step to really work consistently. So you hit trans brake, you floor it, 2-step. But now all of a sudden, you know, you don't really want to leave like that on these transmissions unless you do second gear, which is even then, like on Carlos' 10 or 80 car, we're doing a second gear leave, and I'm still just rolling into it. I think it just, if you're trying to race, that might be okay and the way to go, but most of us are doing, you know, test and tune nationals for the most part. We're just trying for bests, and usually the foot brake's going to be better, depending on the driver. Head Game said Brett is his hero. What do you think about World Cup being canceled this year? That sucked. I was really looking forward to that, but I had a feeling that it wasn't going to happen for sure. They're doing that other deal, which is cool. I'm looking forward to it. I assume it's going to be a live feed, and I'll pay for that or whatever you got to do to see it. And I want to, but I don't really. My red car, I'd love to like be ready and be like, hell yeah, I'm going up there. But I just don't have the time. I mean, we've been so busy with the GT500. I got a lot of things going on personally. It's like endless. So, I mean, I'm not complaining. It's all good stuff, but I just don't have time for my race car. So the GT500 is my race car right now, I guess. So anyway, all right, guys, I am going to wrap it up here. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Like I said, if you would comment or send us in a message, let us know some topics that you guys might want to talk about here on the live feed. I'm going to start working in some interviews real soon, hopefully. I'm not sure if I'm going to do those during the live feed or do those separately. We'll figure that out. That'll be happening real soon. I'm going to start recording them we're not going to do those live. I'll probably do those as separate videos. Anyway, post what you guys want to see, what you guys like, what you guys want to hear about. We'll be doing a lot more dyno videos, different combos, talking about some Hellion cars that we've done recently, Charles Sidoti and Jess's twin turbo Hellion cars we just recently finished up. CJ's twin turbo car, which we're not going to be able to talk about power. That's a street car, like race street car. It's not a race car, a street car that street races, so you can't know his power because he doesn't want anybody to know. But that one's just getting finished up right now. Terry's Whipple car we have at the shop right now. We got a bunch of Whipple cars, so we'll try to go over all that sort of stuff here soon. But I'm open to suggestions on what you guys want to talk about. But anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one.